So, for anyone that has been living under the rock, I will just let my guest introduce himself. So, Dr. Mike Israetel, tell us a few words about yourself.
Oh, thanks for having me on, man. Well, I'm a professor of sport physiology, and I'm a competitive bodybuilder and a competitive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grappler, and the co-founder of Renaissance Periodization. Uh,
When we are speaking about some a little bit not hard subjects, you have just launched your second YouTube channel. It is going into kind of different direction than the first one. Why is that?
I have a passion for sort of philosophy and progress and politics to some extent, and it has absolutely almost nothing to do with fitness. And so I decided that it's a good idea to get myself out there with a second channel, to finally be able to express my views as I think there could offer people some value. So
Yeah, it is growing quite fast as the YouTube nowadays blocks quite few of the um, podcasts and so on.
yeah, I wonder. I did one of our first video did get demonetized because it violated community standards. I have no idea how it did that. They don't tell you how it did that. So
Yeah, it's quite simple. You can say whatever that doesn't just fit overall what pleases everyone. And if you don't please everyone, you're just, violating the standards. Going to the bodybuilding team, when did you start bodybuilding yourself?
I started training with weights when I was 14 years old, and I started competing in bodybuilding when I was, gee whiz, let's see, 29 years old, I guess. So there was a lot of lifting weights and training for hypertrophy between those two. But I think the way I like to answer the question, if it's a sport, then I consider competing in that sport when you began to do that sport. So when people say, "Oh, I'm a bodybuilder," you ask them how many shows they've done, and they say zero. I said, you're a person who's training for hypertrophy, but you're not a bodybuilder yet. So I've been bodybuilding since the year 2013. So I guess for 10 years now, I've been competing on and off in bodybuilding here and there. So yeah, 10 years, I guess.
And what's your biggest achievement in your mind?
I don't think I have any very impressive achievements. I have a whole bunch of class wins. I took second last year at Masters USA's in the super heavyweight class, which was pretty cool. It means I'm a contender, which is nice to feel. And then so going forward after that, I'm looking to do some Masters competitions to see if I can, take my shot at a Masters Pro card or something like that.
And then the goal is to do the Olympia Masters.
No, I haven't even thought of that. My goal, technically, if I ever manage to get a Masters Pro card, my goal is probably to do one pro show and then retire.
Okay. I remember all times when you started the whole full room and so on, people used to laugh at you. And now suddenly it changed direction quite like 180%, And why do you think so?
I've never met any of these people that laughed at me,
Yeah,
unless you can
actually, you
name
never
some
met your
names.
haters. Yeah.
They typically don't say anything in real life, but uh, I think that it's easy to not hug the current people. So if your favorite pros who you want to be like do partial reps, it's easy to just parrot what they do and what they say and say partial reps are great. And if someone comes up and they're saying there's a better way that you do, a bigger range of motion, etc., it's easy to call them stupid because all the best pros aren't doing that. And then when it turns out more and more pros are doing it, and more people in the industry are saying, yeah, geez, that really is a good idea, and partial reps start to look really stupid, especially top end partials, then all of a sudden some people are left to parrot the new wave, and the new wave is, well, range of motion is very good. A lot of the new big best bodybuilders, Hunter Labrada and stuff, they're doing very good execution, very good technique, Nick Walker, etc. And so I guess my biggest thing is probably a good idea to think about things versus just looking at what the best people do and making fun of anyone who's saying there could be a better way. Just because you have a good way that works doesn't mean you can't have a better way that works better.
What are the biggest benefits of working with the full range of motion?
I think the most straightforward one is because you get a lot of tension under stretch, that you just get better muscle growth, a more high probability of muscle growth to occur. And because you can now make every single repetition more effective, you don't have to do as many reps and as many sets and try as hard to get the same level of hypertrophy. For example, the mental and physical effort curling from here to here can be really extreme. The mental and physical effort curling from here to here can be similar. But if one of those gives you 1.5 times more growth than the other, you can actually do less physical work and do less physical or mental exhaustion and psychological effort and get the same amount of hypertrophy. So if you think of yourself as everyone has a point where the work is too hard, right? Maybe your psychological maximum recoverable volume. It's just like you can do 10 sets 4 days a week of biceps. You're probably not going to do 15 sets 6 days a week of biceps, even if you can physically recover. Mentally, it would just be insanely taxing to bring it hard every single set. So whatever your maximum ability is to try, if you fill it with things that aren't so effective, then you're gonna have not such a great time. And you're going to have some result, possibly a good result. But if you fill that objective, total capped amount of effort you could be giving with the things like full range of motion that give you the best bang for your buck, you get more overall. So for example, if I wanted to learn how to speak Polish, and what I did was I learned how to speak Ukrainian instead, which is a very similar language. And also I watched a lot of Polish movies, but I never moved to Poland and immersed myself in the language. I could spend the same amount of effort to learn Polish pretty well, but there's some funny ways I would pronounce stuff, some things I would get wrong. But if I spent that exact amount of mental effort, hours of my day poring over the Ukrainian language, poring over Polish music and movies and reading, and instead took out the Ukrainian part and replaced go live in Warsaw for 6 months, I would have spent the same amount of effort, but now I would be just better at Polish. So full range of motion can allow you, it's not a trick, it's not a shortcut, it's a long cut to better gains. And if you want a shortcut, yeah, you could use it as that, but most of the people who want to care about range of motion, they want the best results. And that way, for all of their efforts, they get rewarded with the best possible results. And of course, there's a lower risk of injury as well, because you have to use externally lighter loads. If I do full range of motion for my incline dumbbell presses, I might have to use 80 or 90 pound dumbbells. If I do partials, like a lot of people do, I might have to use the 150s or the 160s. If something goes wrong with the 150, you could be in real deep shit. If something goes wrong with 90, it's 90. Who cares? So there's less of an injury situation. There's also less of a risk of overall joint wear and tear. You'll see guys saying, hey, my knees really hurt when I leg press. You look at how they leg press, and they leg press with a partial range of motion, an unbelievable amount of weight. Well, no shit. Your body can only recover from so much. There's guys that used to do what's called equipped powerlifting, with the squat suits and stuff like that. The suits would allow them to lift so much more weight than their bodies can handle that their joints would have to take a beating, but there's no way that we're around it. But if you take someone who leg presses with a full range of motion, they generally don't have joint pain. I don't have any knee pain at all. I can't even relate to having knee pain on the leg press almost at all, because I've been using full range of motion and I'm getting a bigger effect for growth with a nominal effect for wear and tear of tissues. And that stuff adds up. You'll see very good bodybuilders who will consider infallible not be able to keep up. And not to say that range of motion was the cause here, but for example, there was one Olympia back in the 90s that Kevin Levrone would have won. And all the judges said the same thing, if his legs were as big as they were the years before. But then they weren't. And the reason they asked Kevin, like, did you stop training your legs? And he's like, of course I didn't fucking stop training him. I just have a crap load of knee pain and stuff that I'm dealing with. I don't know if his stuff was from partial range of motion. Maybe it wasn't. But that same scenario can map onto the same kind of bodybuilder. Like, let's say you're training for the show of your life. Because you went super hard on partial ranges of motion before, your elbow is just giving you trouble. do you want that reality to exist, or do you want the reality of your training for the show of your life and everything feels great? If you choose full range of motion and better technique in general, you can have that much better outcome, much better situation.
Yeah, the longevity aspect, as you said. The second thing is most of us think about what are the causes of the longevity of bodybuilders. And as you said, there are, of course, the substances that we are all using that weren't here long time ago, like as well as a physiotherapy is way improved. And nowadays people are, as well as you said, saying that full range of motion and your style of training is somehow easier, which isn't true, because as you said, it's not hard to really press like this towards to do it like a full movement, full stretch and full squeeze. When you're somehow, when I'm watching your videos, you're even over exaggerating some movements when you're like pressing and then even putting your scapula further to, sure. I don't know if you're doing it for a reason or.
I'm doing it for a reason because I have old chest injuries, and it helps reduce the likelihood that I'll irritate them again if I protract at the top of presses. I don't recommend that people do that, but I do try to go as deep as possible for a super deep stretch if the target muscle is still the limiting factor on the bottom, because that's probably a really good idea for a hypertrophy perspective. But, you know, very few people have said that full range of motion training is easier, at least in my presence, because, you know, mostly the reason that people don't do full range of motion is quite simple. It's ego, and they want to lift as much weight as possible. And there's all sorts of excuses why people assign to it, but 90-something% of the time, it is precisely because they are just doing a really hard attempt at lifting as much weight as possible. And they think, well, how do I lift this weight? I'm not strong enough to lock it out. I'm not strong enough to go for a deep stretch. So I'll just lift it over here because that's the easiest. That's where I'm strongest. And that's number one reason why they're doing it. Truly doing full range of motion, especially on leg exercise, is just way harder. And at the same time, it's insulting because it's harder, but there's less weight on the bar. So you feel weaker, and it's just bad all around, which is why I think some people don't do it.
Yeah, you said twice about the weight, or, you know, we as bodybuilders, we care about the scale and we care about the weights, or at least we used to care about the weights a lot. So what is the biggest factor of the muscle growth?
The biggest factor is, are you lifting relatively heavy weights with enough volume and effort to grow? And then everything else is a detail. So if you're lifting things that are lighter than your 30 rep max, you probably won't get the best growth. If you do a lot of lifting that's heavier than your 5 rep max, you won't be able to accumulate the volume necessary to grow as much. If you stop every set 10 repetitions shy of failure, you never push the muscles close enough to their limits for them to grow much. And if you do too few sets, like you're doing a set of bicep curls every week, but you should be doing 16 sets, you're not going to get much of a result. And none of that really has anything to do with range of motion. So you can actually get very good results doing partial ranges of motion, as long as you do at least a relatively heavy weight, something in the 5 to 30 rep range for working sets. You push each working set to within 3 or 4 reps away from failure. And you do enough working sets per week to get close to your body's maximum ability to take that signaling message from sets, tell your body to grow, and actually translate it into growth. Then how each repetition looks is much more quality aspect than a quantity aspect, and it can definitely boost your results. But there's no full range of motion training protocol that I can give you that from one set of 10 of squats per week, you're going to grow your best. If you did 5 sets of 10 in the squat with crappy technique, you would of course grow better than with one set of really good technique. But one set of really good technique can grow you as much as a set and a half of bad technique squats. And that kind of thing is a big, big deal, even though it's not an order of magnitude difference or something like that.
When we are speaking about the full range of motion as well, or the perfect technique, so to call it, when it comes to the, you know, dieting phase, if we consider these reps, if they are not equal, then probably you often run to guys who are saying like, I have been as strong as at the beginning or even stronger at the end, which is quite impossible if you are like, 10% leaner of the body fat, you're eating way less and you're still gaining strength. That means that you probably ruined your technique.
A lot of times I think it means that guys will go from having better technique to having worse technique. Another thing I will say is sometimes that actually can happen if you take a lot more drugs towards the end of your prep than at the beginning of your prep. So it could be that because you progress your drug intake, that extra strength comes from more drugs. I mean, guys generally have two divisions of how strong they are, how strong I am not on trend and how strong I am on trend. And if you're on tren and VAR and a bunch of other stuff at the end of a contest prep, at least until the last month or several weeks, you could be your strongest ever. But also, I have to say, it should be in the higher repetition ranges at that point, because that dry, that lean, that tired, that fatigued, I wouldn't try to lift my best sets of 5 to 15 reps when I'm that lean. Even if the drugs power you to do so, that's a recipe for an increased likelihood of injury.
When we're speaking as well about the volume, I have watched Nick Walker, who is now training with Jared, and he has said himself that he would do a squat with full range of motion, the ass to the grass, and he rathers now to stop, like as you said, 2-3 reps shy of failure, towards to do it to the maximum, risk his injury, and he rather do one more set. So what would be like, there's hard to say as, because it always comes to the individual, but what would be an optimal number of sets when it comes, for example, to training legs?
Yeah, I think it's better to talk about it per session than per week, because then how many sessions you do per week really just is determined more by can you recover to have productive sessions again. And so per session, I think anywhere between, and I don't mean for legs, just like quads, for example, because, there's glute volume, there's hamstring volume. For quads per session, anything between 2 and 8 sets seems to be where most people grow the best, but that changes over time. If you just took an active rest phase and you do 2 sets of squats for 12 reps, you could be sore for 3 or 4 days. Doing any more than that means you won't heal for your next workout that's half a week later. So actually 2 sets is the most growth promoting on the net balance. But after a week or 2 of training, you might need 3 sets and then 4 sets. And after a few months of training without a training break, you may, in some exercises, get up to a combination of exercises, 8 sets. You might do 5 sets of leg presses and then 3 sets of Smith machine squats. So it's 2 to 8. And I suppose on average, you can say from that, like, oh, I don't know, something like 4 or 5 or 6 is often the right answer. What I'll tell you this is, if I see someone in the gym and they say they're training quads and they do 1 or 2 sets and then they leave, I generally think they're probably underworking. If they do 12 or 15 sets, I think they're doing not difficult enough sets from a range of motion perspective, from a relative effort perspective, from a technique perspective. One thing that Jared and I, having now trained a ton of pros on the RP YouTube channel, one thing we can say with a very high degree of confidence is that when people figure out how to train the more correct way that we think we're on to, super controlled eccentrics, pauses, full range of motion, great technique, the right exercise choices, the right positions, generally after about 5 or 6 sets of quads, everyone's kind of done, man. There's just not much more that's going on. You maximum pump, insane fatigue, and you'll get sore for 4 or 5 days. Training any harder than that is really unlikely to have to be a thing that happens. So when someone says I do 15 sets for quads per workout, okay, try to do it this way with a good eccentric control, full range of motion, and proper technique. After about 3 sets, they usually look at us and go, holy shit, I don't think I'm going to be able to keep going after another couple of these. It's like, yeah. So luckily, if your quality is high, you don't have to do as much quantity. But to Nick Walker's point, there is a problem with going to failure. And the problem is this: training a set to failure absolutely causes more muscle growth than stopping short of failure by like 10%, let's call it. The problem is the fatigue you get a lot of it's psychological from truly going to failure, is like 100% higher than the fatigue you would get from just going 2 reps in reserve. So you're increasing your results by 10%, but 100% paying the cost. It's like going to a restaurant on one side of the street and getting some kind of, sandwich, and it costs $10 and it's pretty good. And then another sandwich across the street costs $20 and it's better, but it's only 10% better. It's just a little better. Maybe you should just buy 2 of those other sandwiches and have a lot of fun versus just one of the second one. So fatigue is a problem. It's not just money that once money goes away or whatever, it doesn't cause any problems. When you accumulate a lot of fatigue, it hurts you in the next training session. So when a lot of guys say, I give it my all every training session and I go to failure on every exercise, my next question to them is often, what about the session after that? They're like, what do you mean? Like, well, okay, Monday you go to failure on all of leg exercises. When you train legs again on Thursday, do you go to failure again? Because often repeating that kind of failure all the time is possible, but it requires you to shrink your volumes down. Maybe you can go to failure on 4 sets Monday and Thursday for quads, but not on 6 sets, because that would just be way too much fatigue. You'd start to get weaker. And now they're essentially reducing their training volume, which we know has a big effect on how much hypertrophy you can generate, but increasing the relative effort at that expense, which we know has a small increase in hypertrophy. And they're doing that knowingly because they're like, well, if I'm going to train this hard, I can't train as much. So making a really inappropriate trade-off in most cases.
But don't you think that everyone should at least once learn how to get to failure to estimate their reps in reserve?
I think once is, I totally agree, but I think once isn't enough. I think that at the end of almost all mesocycles, you should really shit test yourself by going very close to or to failure, but that'll happen naturally as you put more weight on the bar over the weeks and add more repetitions. If you start something at like anywhere between 6 and 2 reps away from failure, either the mesocycle lasts a longer time before you have to deload because you can keep adding, or you can add slightly bigger fractions of load or add more repetitions. Like week 1, you said he did 10 reps on 100 pounds. I think that was 3 reps in reserve. Week 2, with 105 pounds, you get to 10 and you're like, dude, this is like 6 reps in reserve. You keep going. And now what you really think is 2 reps in reserve is 13 reps. You went from 10 reps to 13, 100 to 105 pounds. That kind of natural adjustment keeps you on track to essentially fail in your last week or get very close to failure. Because to your point, if I assume I'm doing 2 RIR, how do I know if that's not really close? Well, if you let's say you start 2 RIR is 100 pounds for 10 reps. Sorry, Poland, 100 kilos for 10 reps, right?
Yeah, they can translate it.
Yeah, whatever, same,
yeah.
right? So 100 kilos for 10 reps. And then at the end of 4 weeks of progression, I've done 110 kilos for 11 reps. Because of the neural adaptations of learning how the exercise works better and stuff, I'd say, yeah, that first week was probably very close to 2 reps in reserve. Now, if in the last week, at week 4, you did 125 kilos for 16 reps, of course, week 1 was almost certainly not 2 reps in reserve, and you were lying to yourself and you were going way too easy. So the next time you do a training cycle, you go, I know that I accidentally underdo it in the first week. So I'm going to go a little bit harder in the first week, and then I'll probably be closer to what is really my true 2 or 3 reps in reserve.
When speaking about the mesocycle, I think that people are as well not yet used to doing that because they're just doing like, until I get beaten, then I'm going to deload or devolume. And what's the biggest profit to back, so to speak, when using those microcycles? Because you have the deloads, devolumes set from the beginning, yeah?
Absolutely. There's there's basically 2 ways to do deloading. There's auto-regulatory deloads, which you just take when you need, like you said, like when I get beat up, I'll take a deload. Then there's pre-planned, which is like on the week of May 16th, I do a deload week. Doesn't matter, I just do it anyway. And there is a better strategy than just those 2 alone, called kind of an integrated strategy, where you say, okay, I'm planning on deloading on May 16th because I'm probably going to have enough fatigue to where I need to do that. But if I feel really shitty the week before, I'll deload then. or I feel really good the week of, I'll do another week of hard training and deload the week after. That's probably the most intelligent approach about it. But one thing that's really good about deloading and timing is, first of all, you can train hard enough. You still there?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. So you can aim to really get your fatigue nice and high before a certain deload, instead of just continuing to train and thinking you're training hard enough. So the deload gives you an endpoint, like you rest here, so you had better make it harder and harder and harder and harder until you get here. It gives you somewhere to shoot for. Another thing is, there is a thing of local fatigue. Let's say my biceps are fatigued. And then there's systemic fatigue, which is like the rest of me is tired. My sleep is off. My appetite is off. I might get sick because I'm pushing my immune system too hard. What deloads, the whole week of deloading allows you to do, is take every muscle that you can to its brink, and then really use a week of easy training to really refuel every muscle. It's like this. Do you have, I'll give you the perfect analogy that I just came up with. I probably used it somewhere else before. If you're taking a road trip, let's say you're driving through Europe, and you have a few friends in the car, and these friends represent your nervous system, they represent your psychology, they represent your joints and connective tissues and your proclivity to get sick, systemic fatigue, and local muscles. It's a big car, it's a minivan, right? And you're driving and you're on a road trip, and you have a few things to tend with of when you stop. There are 3 reasons why you can stop generally. 1 is people have to poop and pee. 2 is people get hungry and have to eat. And 3 is you have to get more fuel for the car, right? You have to get gasoline, petrol, whatever it is. And if you're smart about it, you tell people, hey, in 300 kilometers, we're going to stop at this mega gas station. It's going to have food, bathrooms, and fuel. We're not going to stop before then. So right now, we're at the gas station right now. Go poop, go buy food, go fill up the car so that we have another 300 kilometers. If we don't do that, what ends up happening is halfway through at 150 kilometers, someone in the back's like, hey, I have to poop or I have to eat. And they're like, well, what about last time? They're like, well, I'm just auto-regulating. I'm just taking it when it comes. But we would just be doing deloads and weird stuff all the time. So we want to time our mesocycles such that our body is fully functioning as a unit. All the muscles are good, all the joints, all connective tissues, all the systemic factors. They're trying, and they can't anymore. And then we deload together. It saves us a bunch of time for it to be like, yeah, I'm training quads hard right now, but my back is on the back burner because it's a little injured. Oh, I need a couple days. Then you're never really going hard at the same time. Accumulative fatigue goes up the entire time. So you say, okay, finally, my cumulative fatigue is really high. I need to deload. But during the time that you're deloading with tons of cumulative fatigue for systemic fatigue, your biceps, your triceps, your quads and delts might actually be ready to go. And you're like, why the fuck am I taking time off? Right, because my systemic fatigue caught up. So in order to align all the systemic and local factors, planning out your mesocycles is a better idea. But it's not the only way to do it, because you should say, look, if I'm guessing I'll be ready to go here. For example, you look back at your friends in the car. It turns out it was mostly downhill. And you're like, hey, actually, we have another 50 kilometers in the gas tank, and there's an even better gas station in 50 kilometers. Here's us, ours is coming up here. Does anyone need to poop or pee? Or does anyone need food? And everyone's like, nope, I'm good to wait another 50K. Then you keep going. But if someone in the back seat at 250 kilometers says, look, I am going to shit my pants in 2 minutes unless you pull over, what are you going to do? Not pull over? And so sometimes you deload early, sometimes late, but you should have an idea of when to deload. Here's one last reason, especially for competitive bodybuilders, that deloading on a good time is a good idea. You want to take your entire competition pre-contest plan and split it up into accumulations and deloads. Why? Because imagine having a deload 2 weeks before a show. The fuck? Like, you're still supposed to be going hard. Only your last week's supposed to be easy. So you have a deload on your second to last week. What do you do on your last week? Deload again and lose a lot of fullness? But if you say, okay, well, I'll just skip that deload. Well, what if the fatigue is so massive that if you skip that second week out deload, now you have so much fatigue that that whole week of pre-contest doesn't even get rid of it. You show up on stage flat and watery and you're limping because your knee still hurts. Like, that's no good. So your last deload before a show should be like 3, 4, or 5 weeks before the show, probably 4 or 5. You really clear all the fatigue and have that last mesocycle go super well, timed exactly to your show. And that's a big reason why periodization exists as a science. Periodization is designed to do three things. One, enhance outcomes of training. Two, reduce the probability of injury. And three, time your performances to when they matter most. And that last part, that's a big part of bodybuilding. Nobody gives a shit how you look in the gym 3 days out. Who cares? They don't hand out trophies then. You have to look amazing on stage, which is by planning out your mesocycles in advance, knowing that you will be your best at the very end of a deload in the last week of contest prep. That's a smart idea.
How much time should deload or devolume take? And would you anytime prescribe anyone taking the total off time of the gym?
Yeah, good question. So most of the time, things can get sorted in a week that need to be sorted. Fatigue can be brought down over the course of a week if you do things right. That buys you another mesocycle, 4 to 8 weeks of productive training in most cases. But I think in some cases that doesn't work. Sometimes the systemic fatigue is too high. Sometimes your joints and connective tissues are really in such a state, especially a few of them, that a whole week even of easier training doesn't do enough. And then so occasionally, I like to do this twice a year, is to take an active rest period. And an active rest period can be done a few different ways, but the way I do it is I take a deload, and then I take that next week of training and completely off, just no gym. That's the active rest part. It's technically 2 straight weeks of like insanely easy training / no training at all. 2 weeks can heal you for another half year of hardcore training. A week can heal you for another few months, but maybe not for another half year. So at some point, after multiple months of training hard, deloading, your cumulative fatigue now has come up to where another week isn't enough. And you have to do a whole week of deloading and then a whole week off. And that's to answer your question. I think a week off twice a year is a really good idea. Can you take a week off instead of deloading every time you deload? Yes. But research shows that if you move around and actually move the muscles, they recover better. And also, if you practice some of the techniques of your lifting, your technical sharpness can be better if you deload versus if you take time off altogether. And that way, for some folks that take a week off of the gym, they complain that when they come back, everything feels off. Like my technique feels off and everything feels strange. Those people benefit especially from a deload to do much less, but still get practice. So when they come back in, physiologically, they're healed, but, technique-wise, they know what's going on. Some people may actually benefit more from almost or entirely a week totally off every deload and never do a deload week. But on average, most people benefit from some amount of work. What I would say is this: cutting your sessions in half is often a wise idea. So if you typically train 6 days a week, just going to 3 days a week on a deload week, cutting the load by half and the volume by half, geez, that's a lot less. That's, some small fraction of what you would normally do. And that's barely any gym time. It's not a huge disruption. You clear a ton of fatigue, but you clear even more fatigue because you're moving around and you have the best technical carryover, and you don't lose any technique ability or mind muscle connection. And then that's generally a really, really good approach for most people to take.
So, for example, when we are starting the prep, it's like 26 weeks long, let's say. In week 8, we accumulated enough fatigue to get it to the 60%, let's say. We deload, we lower it to 40. Then in another deload, we are starting from the 40, not from the 0. So we are still accumulating the fatigue. And then post-show, when we have this deload pre-show, this 1 week of the pre-show stage, and then we should take a week off of the gym.
Maybe
that might be.
Oh yeah, sure. So whatever number of weeks you do as your pre-contest, you have to look at that and ask, how many deloads do I need here to make this sustainable so that I arrive in one piece to the show? Preferably that I arrive with my best training, right? And my best possible condition and shape and all this other stuff. So that is what I'm concerned about. And also generally, you should, in your last week before the show, drop a lot of fatigue, because low systemic fatigue means lower inflammation and lower likelihood of storing subcutaneous water. And that's very important, because if your fatigue is very low on stage, you're going to look way better than if it's high. And the other thing is this: the show itself isn't very fatiguing. You're posing, it's not that hard. You don't lift weights at the show. It's just for a few minutes on stage, really, if you think about it. And then what I like to do is take half a week off completely after the show. No training, just walking around and eating some food and just trying to sleep and stuff. That usually the show week, pre-contest week, and half a week after drops my fatigue down enough to be able to afford me a really good, solid 4 to 8 weeks of rebound mass gaining training. Because after a show, you have to regain body fat, literally, in order to become healthy again and in order to create a good muscle growth situation again. But you can gain some muscle along with that, or preparatory hypertrophy, by training really hard. And it's really fun to train hard during that time. You look amazing in pictures. You're the lean and full and vascular and all that great stuff. And so what I like to do is take that half week after the show off, and then go and do a nice massing phase with all kinds of fun training after for 4 to 6 weeks. And then I take an active rest phase of 2 weeks, clear all the fatigue from all of that, and then begin my next mesocycle and block and macro cycle after that.
And before we finish, I'd like to ask you 2 questions about the diet. First one, when it comes to the deload, should we approach our diet differently? Because some people are like, okay, it's deload week, I'm not going to work as hard. Should I cut calories?
I think the deload has a very easy answer, luckily. Maintenance is the best answer for a deload in most cases. So whatever your maintenance calories are. So if you're on a pre-contest, you can ask yourself, okay, what is the purpose of a deload? That's to recover. Number one, to recover, to reduce fatigue. Is a hypocaloric diet one that is insufficient calories to maintain my body? Is that good for recovery? No, it's terrible. It's the worst thing for recovery, second to like not enough sleep. Okay, that's not going to work. I need to reconsider that. And I need to see, okay, what about a surplus? Well, a surplus is great for recovery, but also kind of takes you backwards on your diet. So it's no good for diet phases. But a surplus, if you're mass gaining, if you do a surplus, it helps you recover during deload week. But also, because it's deload, the stimulus for muscle growth is small. So the surplus is going to create more body fat. And that's not something you want. So in the end of the day, no matter if it's fat loss phase or muscle gain phase, maintenance calories is generally the best answer for deload. On a muscle gain phase, people generally tend to think that's awesome because they don't have to stuff themselves anymore and they're not training a lot. On a fat loss phase, you get kind of 2 camps. One is people who love the fact that it's more food, they get to recover. But 2 is people who think, man, because once you get in the zone of dieting, you don't want to leave. And going back to maintenance and not seeing your body change over a couple of days, as soon as you go to maintenance, your glycogen is going to start to refill. You're going to gain some weight, plays head games with you. So some people have a difficulty on that end, including myself personally. I hate the process of going back to maintenance during a fat loss plan, but it's usually a very good idea because you'll burn tons of fat off in the actual accumulation weeks of your mesocycle, the accumulation microcycles. You'll build tons of muscle, but during deload, the number one thing is recovery, and maintenance calories are the best for recovery on that balance.
One last question: when it comes to the post-show time, how much body fat or the body weight should we gain like immediately and then going forward?
The immediately question is really good. I would say as little as possible immediately, because the bloat can be very, very unhealthy and just
I mean like
1
week post-show.
Yeah, no, I mean the same thing. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I think it immediately, I'd say it's as little as possible for you to feel good. So I'd say go back to normal hydration and go back to maintenance, or sorry, go back to surplus. I would say 1,000 calorie surplus daily, but exclusively or almost exclusively from healthy food, clean food, bodybuilding food. What'll end up happening is you'll probably gain like 5% of your body weight back within that week, but most of it will be water. And it'll be intramuscular water, a little bit subcutaneous, but you're going to be feeling great. You're going to be training hard. If you eat a ton of junk food right after that, for the show that you do for that whole week, you're going to gain way more than that. and your surplus will be, 2,000 daily calories of surplus instead of 1,000. And I would say after that first week, a surplus of anywhere between 500 and 1,000 daily calories is a good idea. That has you regaining, gee whiz, 0.5% to 1% body fat per week. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you competed at 4% body fat, you might need 8 weeks to get back up to 10% body fat. The entire time that you are under 10% body fat, you are not optimally functioning to construct muscle tissue, to reduce injury risk, to get the best sleep, all that stuff. So you're actually trying to get out of that state of being lean. A big mistake people make is once they get lean, they try to kind of stay lean as long as they can. You're just staying in a place which is not sustainable to muscle growth. You don't want to regain 4% body fat every week and then after 2 weeks be fatter than ever. But yeah, somewhere like 0.5 to 1% body fat regain per week is probably a smart idea. And if, look, you get to 8 or 9% body fat, your hunger is good, you feel great, you don't want to get any fatter for a while, yeah, just go to maintenance or a really slow bulk. But I wouldn't hang around 4% for very long unless you have another show coming up.
Yeah, that's first of all tiring, and second of all not healthy at all. Mike, thank you for your time. It took us a while to get caught, but finally we got it, and that was a great lecture. So in the description, you're going to have all of the links to the good stuff, to Mike's profile on the Instagram, and 2 YouTube channels, or 3 YouTube channels. I don't remember how much.
2. Yeah.
RPE and your personal one. So, yes. Okay, you're going to have it all in the description. So thank you and have a good time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.